Welcome, listeners, to a tale of destiny, power, and forbidden love. This is the story of a king who ruled with an iron fist and the Omega who brought him to his knees. This is the story of prophecy fulfilled. This is the Lycan King's chosen Luna. Before we begin, if you love dark Lycan Kings, forbidden mates, and stories that make your heart ache, comment where you are watching from, and subscribe for epic Lycan King romances where Omegas rise, kings fall, and love is never gentle. Long before the rise of King Marcus, before the great throne was carved from black stone and moon silver, the elders spoke of a prophecy. It was whispered only in sacred chambers, where moonlight filtered through crystalline windows and ancient wolves stood guard. The words were inscribed on tablets older than the kingdom itself, written in a language that few could still read. The high priestess of the Moon Temple had received the vision during the longest night of winter, when the veil between worlds grew thin. She had fallen into a trance, her eyes turning pure silver, and spoken words that would echo through generations. When the throne grows cold and the king's wolf refuses every bride, when war threatens from without and corruption festers within, a hidden Omega shall rise from the forgotten places. She will carry no crown, no wealth, no pride. No mark of greatness will distinguish her from the least. But the king himself will bow at her feet, and his wolf will recognize what his heart denies. She will be tested by fire, by betrayal, by blood. And only if she survives will the kingdom know peace. For she is the balance to his power, the mercy to his justice, the moon to his sun. Reject her, and the kingdom falls. Accept her, and a new age begins. For centuries, it remained only a tale told to young Omegas before bed, a story of impossible hope in a world where rank and bloodline meant everything. Until the year the throne demanded a Luna, until the year everything changed. King Marcus Silverclaw was feared across every territory. Tall and broad-shouldered, standing nearly 7 feet in his human form, he commanded attention the moment he entered any room. His eyes were like molten gold, burning with intelligence and barely contained power. Dark hair fell to his shoulders, and his presence alone could make grown alphas submit. He ruled with strength and precision from the obsidian throne in Silver Peak, the capital city carved into the mountainside. But his wolf was the largest anyone had ever seen, a silver-black beast that radiated dominance so powerful that lesser wolves couldn't even meet its gaze. Under his rule, the kingdom had expanded. Trade routes flourished. Enemies were crushed without mercy. Laws were enforced with brutal efficiency. But there was one thing the king lacked: a mate. For 12 years he had ruled alone. For 12 years his council had brought him potential Lunas, daughters of powerful alphas, Omegas of exceptional beauty and breeding, women who could trace their lineage back to the first wolves. Every single one had been rejected. Not by Marcus himself, though he found them all wanting in different ways, but by his wolf, the beast inside him that held veto power over the man. Ancient tradition held that the wolf knew what the human mind could not perceive. The wolf could sense the true heart, the genuine soul, and Marcus's wolf had found them all hollow. "Another failure, Your Majesty," Chancellor Darius had said after the most recent rejection, 3 months prior. The Omega Delilah from the Moonstone Pack would have been an excellent political match. Marcus had remained silent, staring out at the mountains from his throne room. "The kingdom grows restless," Darius continued carefully. "Without a Luna, there is no heir. Without an heir, there is uncertainty. Uncertainty breeds unrest." Marcus's jaw had tightened. "My wolf knows what it wants." "Then perhaps, Your Majesty, it is time to cast a wider net." And so the decision was made. The council demanded an official Luna selection, the first in 3 generations. A gathering of Omegas from every pack in the kingdom and its allied territories. The Luna trials would test them in every way that mattered. strength of heart, wisdom, grace, loyalty, and the final test, the king's wolf. Whomever the wolf accepted would become queen, regardless of her bloodline, regardless of her rank, regardless of politics. The proclamation went out on the first full moon of spring. Every eligible Omega from allied packs would be summoned to the capital to compete. Wealthy families began grooming their daughters immediately. Political alliances shifted overnight, and in a small, forgotten pack on the northern borders, a young Omega who had never dreamed of such things received news that would change her life forever. Cassandra Moonwhisper, known simply as Cassie, was not meant to be there. She came from the Frostfang pack, the smallest and poorest pack on the northern borders. Their territory was harsh, rocky soil, bitter winters, and constant threats from rogue wolves and wild creatures. Her father, Thomas Moonwhisper, had been a mid-ranking warrior. He'd died 5 years ago in a border skirmish with rogues, leaving behind a widow and a daughter with no status, no protection, and no prospects. Her mother, Elena, had worked herself to exhaustion trying to survive. She took in washing, mended clothes, cleaned the homes of wealthier pack members. The work was endless and paid barely enough to keep them fed. Cassie helped however she could. She did chores from dawn until dark. She cleaned the pack house. She cooked for gatherings. She obeyed without complaint. She had learned early that an Omega without a powerful family had only 2 choices: be useful or be discarded. Other Omegas mocked her. Serena, the Beta's daughter, was particularly cruel. "Look at the scrub girl," she would say with a laugh, surrounded by her friends. "Do you think she even owns a proper dress? I heard her mother takes charity from the elders." "She looks like a servant," another Omega, Victoria, would add. "I suppose that's all she'll ever be." Cassie endured it all in silence. She'd learned that responding only made things worse. Her mother had taught her that dignity meant more than defending yourself against those not worth your breath. But at night, alone in the tiny cottage she shared with her mother, Cassie would sometimes allow herself to dream. Dreams of being somewhere warm, of having enough food, of her mother not having to work until her hands bled. Then the proclamation arrived. The Alpha of Frostfang Pack called an emergency assembly. Every pack member gathered in the town square as snow began to fall. Alpha Connor, a grizzled wolf with gray in his beard, read from an official scroll sealed with the royal crest. By order of King Marcus Silverclaw, all Omegas between the ages of 18 and 25 are hereby invited to participate in the Luna Trials. The trials will commence at the capital city of Silver Peak on the first day of summer. All packs are required to send their eligible candidates. Travel and lodging will be provided by the Crown. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Serena's eyes lit up with ambition. "I'll be Luna," she whispered to her friends. "Can you imagine? I'm me as queen." Cassie felt nothing but a dull ache. This wasn't for wolves like her. This was for Omegas with training, with education, with family wealth and connections. But that evening, her mother grabbed her hands. "You're going, Cassie." "Mother, I can't." "You can and you will." Elena's eyes were fierce despite her exhaustion. "This is your chance, your only chance to change everything. Not just for us, for you. You deserve more than this life. Your father would have wanted—" Her voice broke. Cassie pulled her mother into an embrace. "I'll fail," Cassie whispered. "I'm not like them. I'm not educated. I'm not refined. I don't even know how to—" "You're kind," Elena interrupted firmly. "You're brave. You're honest. Those are the things that matter, Cassie. Those are the things that last." 3 weeks later, Cassie stood with 7 other Omegas from Frostfang Pack at the edge of the village, each with a small traveling bag. Serena wore fine traveling clothes, her bags carried by servants. Cassie wore her mother's mended cloak and carried everything she owned in a cloth bundle. As the royal carriages arrived to transport them to the capital, her mother hugged her one last time. "Remember who you are," Elena whispered. Not an Omega without rank, a daughter, a survivor, a wolf with heart. Cassie nodded, tears streaming down her face. I love you, Mother. I love you too, my Silver Moon. Now go, and don't you dare give up. The journey to Silver Peak took 5 days, and with each mile, Cassie's fear grew, because she knew deep in her bones that she was walking into a world that was never meant for wolves like her. The capital city of Silver Peak was beyond anything Cassie had ever imagined. Built into the mountainside itself, the city rose in terraced levels connected by grand staircases and arched bridges. Buildings of white stone gleamed in the sunlight, decorated with intricate carvings of wolves and moon phases. Market squares bustled with vendors selling exotic goods from across the territories. The air smelled of spices, fresh bread, and mountain flowers. And at the very peak of the mountain sat the palace. It dominated the skyline, a massive structure of black stone and silver metal that seemed to grow from the mountain itself. Towers reached toward the sky, walls thick enough to withstand any siege, windows that glittered like stars. Cassie pressed her face against the carriage window, her breath catching. First time seeing civilization. "A scrub girl!" Serena's mocking voice came from across the carriage. Cassie didn't respond. She was too overwhelmed to care about Serena's cruelty. The carriages wound their way up the mountain road, finally arriving at the palace gates. Guards in black armor stood at attention, their faces hidden behind wolf-shaped helmets. As Cassie stepped out of the carriage, her legs nearly buckled. She'd never felt so small, so out of place. Dozens of other carriages were already there, Omegas emerging in waves of silk and jewels. They were beautiful, confident, clearly from wealthy packs. A palace official, a severe-looking woman with her hair pulled back in a tight bun, addressed them all. "Welcome to Silver Peak Palace. I am Madame Thorne, Mistress of Protocol. You will follow me to your quarters. The Luna trials begin tomorrow at dawn. You are expected to conduct yourselves with dignity. Any behavior unbecoming of a potential Luna will result in immediate dismissal. Follow me." They were led through corridors that made Cassie's head spin. Golden pillars, moonstone chandeliers that cast rainbow light across marble floors. Tapestries depicting ancient battles and legendary wolves. Guards stationed every 20 paces. The Omega quarters were in the east wing, spacious rooms that could each hold 4 candidates. Cassie was assigned to share with 3 others, none of whom she knew. One was Lydia from the River Run pack, a quiet Omega with gentle eyes. Another was Helena from the Stoneclaw pack, reserved but polite. The third was Vivian from the Golden Crest pack, who introduced herself with a warm smile. "This is overwhelming, isn't it?" Vivian said as they unpacked. I've never seen anything like this palace." "Me neither," Cassie admitted quietly. "Where are you from?" "Frostfang Pack, Northern Territories." "Oh, I've heard of that area. Harsh winters, right?" Cassie nodded. Lydia spoke up softly. "My mother told me the king has rejected over 100 potential mates in the past 12 years. What if none of us are what his wolf wants?" "Then we go home and at least we tried," Helena said practically. "Better than wondering what if." That night, Cassie couldn't sleep. She stood by the window of her quarters, looking out at the city below. Thousands of lights twinkled like earthbound stars. The full moon hung overhead, bathing everything in silver. Somewhere in this vast palace, the king slept. The king whose wolf would decide her fate. "Please," she whispered to the moon. "I'm not asking to win. I'm just asking not to embarrass myself, not to fail my mother. Just let me be brave enough." The moon offered no answer. But somewhere in the palace, in chambers Cassie couldn't imagine, a king lay awake as well. And his wolf stirred restlessly, sensing something it couldn't name, something coming. Dawn broke with the sound of bells. All 73 Omega candidates were summoned to the Great Hall, a chamber so vast that Cassie felt like an ant beneath its vaulted ceiling. Three-story windows let in streams of golden light. The king's throne sat at the far end, elevated on a dais of black stone. The throne itself was magnificent, carved from a single piece of obsidian and inlaid with silver in patterns that resembled moonlight on water. But it sat empty. The council members occupied a long table before the throne. Chancellor Darius, an older wolf with silver hair and calculating eyes, General Thorn, a battle-scarred warrior, High Priestess Selene, draped in white robes, Master Chen, the kingdom's chief strategist, Lady Morgana, representing the noble houses. Madame Thorn stood before them all, her voice carrying through the chamber. The Luna trials will test you in 5 areas. Each trial will eliminate candidates who prove unsuitable. Only those who pass all trials will face the final test, the King's Wolf. You may begin to understand. We are not seeking the most beautiful Omega. We are seeking a queen. Begin. Test 1. Wisdom. The first trial was held in the council chamber. Each Omega was brought before the council, one at a time, and presented with complex scenarios. When it was Cassie's turn, her heart hammered so hard she thought they could hear it. Chancellor Darius spoke. A dispute has arisen between 2 packs over hunting territory. Both claim ancestral rights. Violence is escalating. As Luna, how would you advise the king to resolve this? Cassie's mouth went dry. She had no training in politics or diplomacy, but she thought of her own pack, of the struggles over scarce resources, of how pride could destroy everything. I would, she began, her voice barely above a whisper. Speak up, Madame Thorn snapped. Cassie took a breath and raised her voice. I would advise the king to hear both sides publicly. Let each pack present their claim with evidence and witnesses. But more importantly, I would investigate whether the territory can support both packs if they cooperate rather than compete. Shared hunting grounds, rotating access, joint management. Pride makes enemies, but necessity can forge alliances. If they work together, both packs eat. If they fight, both packs starve. Silence filled the room. General Thorn leaned forward. And if they refuse to cooperate, then they've chosen their fate, Cassie said quietly. The king cannot save those who won't save themselves, but at least they cannot say they weren't given the chance. High Priestess Selene's lips curved in a slight smile. Chancellor Darius made a note. Next. Cassie was dismissed, her legs shaking. Of the 73 candidates, 32 failed the wisdom trial. Some advocated for violence too quickly. Others showed favoritism based on pack status. Some simply froze and couldn't answer at all. Cassie passed. So did Serena, to Cassie's annoyance. The beta's daughter had given a rehearsed answer about maintaining royal authority through strength. Predictable, but not wrong. Test 2. Grace under pressure. The second trial was unexpected. All remaining candidates were brought to the palace ballroom and told they would be learning a complex traditional dance in 1 hour, then performing it before the court that evening. Cassie had never learned formal dancing. In Frostfang Pack, they had simple folk dances at festivals, nothing like this. The dance master, an elegant wolf named Monsieur Laurent, demonstrated the steps. It was intricate, precise footwork, graceful arm movements requiring perfect timing and memory. You will be paired randomly with guards who will serve as your partners, he announced. Begin practicing. The next hour was chaos. Cassie was paired with a tall guard who clearly didn't want to be there. She stumbled, stepped on his feet, lost count of the steps. Around her, other Omegas struggled as well, though some, clearly trained in formal dancing, moved with confidence. Serena, of course, was flawless. She'd clearly had years of lessons. When evening came, Cassie's stomach was in knots. The ballroom filled with nobles and pack representatives, all seated to watch. One by one, each Omega performed the dance with her guard partner. Some were beautiful, some were competent, some fell apart under the pressure. When Cassie's turn came, she walked to the center of the ballroom on trembling legs. The music began. She remembered the first steps. 1, 2, 3, turn. She stumbled. Whispers rippled through the crowd. Her guard caught her, steadying her, for his expression hidden behind his helmet. Cassie closed her eyes for a moment. She heard her mother's voice. "Remember who you are. Don't give up." She opened her eyes and continued. She wasn't perfect. She missed some of the finer flourishes. Her turns weren't as smooth as the trained Omegas, but she didn't stop. She didn't flee. She finished the dance with her head held high. Polite applause followed, more for effort than excellence. Cassie returned to her place among the other candidates, her cheeks burning. That night, 18 more Omegas were eliminated. But Cassie wasn't one of them. High Priestess Selene had spoken in her favor during deliberations. Grace is not perfection. Grace is maintaining dignity when you stumble. That Omega has it. 23 candidates remained. The third trial was announced at breakfast, the test of loyalty. Each Omega would be placed in a private room and given a scenario. They would not know they were being observed and tested. Cassie was led to a small study. Inside, she found a desk with an unlocked drawer. A servant girl who looked no more than 16 was cleaning the windows. Madame Thorne instructed, "You have 1 hour of private study time. Use it to prepare for tomorrow's session on kingdom law. The materials are in the desk." Then she left, locking the door behind her. Cassie opened the drawer. Inside were study materials as promised, but also a sealed envelope marked "Confidential Trial Answers." Her heart stopped. It was a trap, obviously a trap, but the temptation was real. If she looked at those answers, she'd have an advantage over the other candidates. She could ensure she passed the next trial. She stared at the envelope. Then she heard a soft sob. The servant girl had stopped cleaning and was crying quietly. "Are you all right?" Cassie asked gently. The girl jumped. "I'm sorry, miss. I shouldn't be. I'll go." "No, please. What's wrong?" The girl hesitated, then whispered, "My brother is sick. The healers say he needs medicine, but it costs 2 months' wages. My mother is beside herself. I thought if I worked extra shifts." She broke down crying again. Cassie's heart ached. She knew that desperation, that helplessness. She looked at the envelope again, then at her own small coin purse, the few silver pieces her mother had managed to save for her. It wasn't much, barely enough for a week of meals, but it might buy medicine for a sick child. Cassie made her decision. She crossed to the girl and pressed her coin purse into her hands. "For your brother's medicine." The girl's eyes went wide. "Miss, I can't. Please. I know what it's like to worry about family. Take it." The girl clutched the purse, tears streaming down her face. "Thank you. Thank you. May the moon bless you." She fled the room. Cassie sat down at the desk, ignored the envelope completely, and studied the legitimate materials. An hour later, Madame Thorne returned. "Did you have a productive study session?" "Yes, ma'am." "Did you encounter any temptations?" Cassie met her eyes steadily. "I found what I needed." Madame Thorne's expression revealed nothing. That evening, 7 more Omegas were eliminated. All 7 had opened the envelope of answers. 3 had taken coins that were accidentally left in the desk drawer. 1 had stolen a piece of jewelry left on a shelf. Another had read through private correspondence, also accidentally left out. The servant girl had been an actress, the sick brother a fabrication. Every room had been designed to test a different type of loyalty, to rules, to others, to integrity. Cassie had passed without even realizing the full extent of the test. 16 candidates remained. The 4th trial was the most feared, strength of heart. High Priestess Selene explained, "You will be placed under a spell that reveals your deepest fears. You will experience them as if they were real. Your task is not to overcome them, for some fears cannot be overcome. Your task is to endure without losing yourself, to face them and remain whole." The trial would be conducted in the temple beneath the palace, 1 candidate at a time. The wait was torture. Cassie sat with Lydia and Vivian in their quarters. Helena had been eliminated in the loyalty trial for taking coins. "I'm terrified," Lydia admitted. "What if I can't handle it?" "We all make it through or we don't," Vivian said, trying to sound brave. "At least we'll know we tried." When Cassie's turn came, she was led deep underground to a circular chamber carved from crystal. Moonlight filtered down through shafts in the rock above, making the walls glow. High Priestess Selene stood in the center, holding a silver chalice. "Drink," she said simply. Cassie drank. The liquid tasted like starlight and shadows. The world began to spin. And then she was somewhere else. Cassie stood in her childhood home. Everything looked exactly as she remembered, except darker, colder. "Cassie?" Her mother's voice, weak and strained. She ran to the bedroom and found Elena in bed, deathly pale, skeletal thin. The sickness had taken her completely. "Mother!" Cassie grabbed her hand. It was cold as ice. "I'm sorry, darling," Elena whispered. "I tried to wait for you. I tried to hold on." No, you're going to be fine. I'll get help." "There's no help. I worked too hard, too long. My body gave out. I'm so sorry I won't see what you become." "Mother, please." Elena's eyes began to close. "Tell me you'll be strong. Tell me you won't give up no matter how hard it gets." "I promise, Mother, I promise, but please don't." A sound behind her. Cassie turned. Her father stood in the doorway. Thomas Moonwhisper, exactly as she remembered him. Strong and kind, with laugh lines around his eyes. But he was covered in blood. "Cassie," he said, his voice echoing strangely. "I died for nothing. Died defending a pack that didn't care about us. Died and left you with nothing." "Father." "You're going to fail," he said, stepping closer. "You're going to fail these trials and go home, and your mother will die in poverty, and it will be my fault for dying, my fault for being weak." "You weren't weak. Look at her," he gestured to Elena. "Look at what my death did to her. And now you're here, playing dress-up in a palace, pretending you belong among royalty when you're just a scrub girl who cleans floors." His words cut deeper than any blade, because part of her believed them. "You don't belong here," he continued. "You never did. And when you fail, and you will fail, your mother will die knowing her daughter was a fool with impossible dreams." Elena's hand went limp in Cassie's grip. Her mother had stopped breathing. "No!" Cassie screamed. She collapsed over her mother's body, sobbing. The grief was overwhelming. It drowned her like black water, pulling her down, suffocating her. "Give up," her father's voice whispered. "There's no point. You've already lost everything." Cassie wept. For her mother. For her father. For the impossible weight of expectations she could never meet. And then, through the grief, a memory. Her mother's voice, real and strong. "Remember who you are. You are a survivor. You are a wolf with heart." Cassie lifted her head. She looked at her father's ghost, because that's what it was. A ghost. A fear. Not real. "You're right," she whispered. "I might fail. I probably will fail. I don't belong in palaces or among royalty." Her father's ghost smiled cruelly. "But that doesn't make me worthless," Cassie continued, her voice growing stronger. "My father was a hero who died protecting others. My mother is the strongest person I know, and I am their daughter. I carry them with me. Whether I win or lose these trials, whether my mother lives or dies, I am still worth something. Because I tried. Because I cared. Because I didn't give up." The illusion began to crack. "My fears don't define me," Cassie said, standing up. "They're part of me, but they're not all of me, and I won't let them make me stop." The world shattered like glass. Cassie woke on the crystal floor, High Priestess Selene kneeling beside her. Tears streamed down Cassie's face, but she was breathing steadily. "How long?" Cassie asked. 10 minutes, Selene said softly. "You endured 10 minutes of your greatest fears and came back whole. Well done, child." Cassie sat up slowly. Her entire body ached as if she'd actually lived through that nightmare. Did I pass? You passed, Celine confirmed. Not everyone does. Of the 16 candidates who entered the trial, 5 did not emerge whole. 2 had complete breakdowns and had to be carried out. 3 fled from their illusions and refused to face them, disqualifying themselves. 11 passed, including Cassie, also including Serena, who emerged looking shaken but triumphant, and Vivian, who hugged Cassie tightly afterward, both of them crying. Lydia had not passed. She'd fled her illusion and was being sent home. I'm sorry, Cassie told her as she packed. Shh, don't be, Lydia said with a weak smile. I wasn't strong enough, but you are. Win this thing, Cassie, for all of us who couldn't. From the beginning, King Marcus had watched the trials from the shadows. He never attended publicly. That would influence the judges. But he had a private viewing chamber with spelled windows that let him observe without being seen. At first, he barely noticed Cassie. She was ordinary, plainly dressed, quiet, clearly out of her depth among the wealthy and trained Omegas. But during the wisdom trial, something caught his attention. Her answer about the disputed hunting territory, it wasn't rehearsed political theory. It was real, practical, compassionate but not weak. She's from Frostfang Pack, Chancellor Darius had noted, reviewing her file. Poor territory. Father killed in service. Mother works as a washerwoman. No formal education, no connections. Frankly, Your Majesty, I'm surprised she made it past the first trial. Marcus had said nothing, but he continued watching. During the dance trial, when she stumbled and kept going, his wolf stirred. She doesn't quit, the wolf observed. She's just stubborn, Marcus muttered to himself. Watch her, the wolf insisted. During the loyalty trial, when footage showed her giving away her only money to help a servant's supposedly sick brother, Marcus actually sat forward. She gave away everything she had, he said aloud, surprised. Chancellor Darius, watching beside him, frowned. Foolish. She'll need those funds if she fails and has to return home. Or, Marcus said slowly, she values others more than herself. Keep watching, his wolf practically purred. And during the Strength of Heart trial, when Celine showed him the recording of Cassie's illusion, her fears of her mother dying, her father's ghost telling her she was worthless, and her ultimate decision to stand despite her fear. Something shifted in Marcus's chest. He'd seen powerful warriors break under less, but this Omega from nowhere with nothing had found strength not in denying her fear but in accepting it and choosing to be more than it. Who is she? Marcus asked quietly. No one, Your Majesty, Darius replied. A complete unknown. Marcus's wolf disagreed. She's everything, the wolf said. And for the first time in 12 years, Marcus's wolf was excited about what came next. 11 candidates had passed all 4 trials, but by tradition only 5 could face the final test. The remaining candidates were given 3 days of rest and preparation. During this time, they would attend formal dinners with court nobles, participate in diplomatic meetings, and demonstrate their ability to function as potential Lunas. This wasn't an official trial, but everyone knew. The judges were still watching. Cassie felt completely overwhelmed. She had no appropriate clothes for formal dinners. Madame Thorne, however, had anticipated this. All remaining candidates were provided with a wardrobe befitting their potential station. Cassie found herself in gowns she'd never imagined wearing. Silks in deep blue, soft silver, forest green. Simple compared to what the noble-born Omegas wore, but finer than anything she'd owned in her life. The first formal dinner was a disaster. Cassie didn't know which fork to use. Ma didn't understand half the political references in conversation, accidentally insulted a duchess by not recognizing her title. She returned to her quarters in tears. I don't belong here, she told Vivian. I'm going to embarrass myself out of the running. You're still here, aren't you? Vivian pointed out. You passed trials that eliminated dozens of others. Maybe you belong here more than you think. The second dinner went slightly better. Cassie focused less on trying to impress and more on listening. She asked questions, admitted when she didn't understand something, let herself be genuine rather than trying to be someone she wasn't. An elderly alpha from the Western Territories actually laughed warmly at her honesty. "Refreshing," he said. "Most young Omegas pretend to know everything. You, my dear, have the wisdom to learn." On the third day, something unexpected happened. Cassie was walking through the palace gardens, trying to clear her head before the evening's event, when she heard crying. She followed the sound to find a young girl, maybe 7 years old, sitting by a fountain. The child wore noble clothing but was covered in dirt and tears. "Are you all right?" Cassie asked gently. The girl looked up with red eyes. "I fell in the fish pond and got all dirty, and Mother is going to be so angry, and the dinner is tonight, and—" She dissolved into fresh sobs. Cassie's heart melted. "Come on," she said, holding out her hand. "Let's get you cleaned up." She took the girl back to her quarters, thankfully empty, and helped her wash and clean her dress as best as possible. "What's your name?" Cassie asked as she worked. Amelia," the girl sniffled. "My mother is Lady Morgana. She's on the council." Cassie's hands stilled for just a moment. Lady Morgana, one of the judges. "Well, Amelia," Cassie said, resuming her work, "your mother loves you, I'm sure. She might be upset for a moment, but she'll be relieved you're safe." "You really think so?" "I know so." When Amelia was as clean as Cassie could manage, she walked her back to the noble quarters. Lady Morgana was there, looking frantic. "Amelia, where have you been? I was about to send guards." She stopped, seeing her daughter with Cassie. "She fell in the fish pond, my lady," Cassie explained. "I helped clean her up. I apologize if I overstepped." Lady Morgana pulled her daughter into a fierce hug, then looked at Cassie with an unreadable expression. "Thank you," she said finally. Not many would have taken the time. Cassie nodded and quietly left. She didn't know that Lady Morgana watched her go with thoughtful eyes. That evening, the final selections were announced. 5 candidates would face the ultimate test. When Cassie's name was called, she nearly fainted with shock. The other 4 were Serena, the Beta's daughter from Frostfang Vivian from Golden Crest, Isabella from the Shadowpine Pack, a trained diplomat Aurora from the Crimson Moon Pack, whose bloodline traced back to ancient royalty. Cassie looked at the others and felt impossibly small. These were Omegas of breeding, training, and power. And then there was her. But she'd made it this far. She wouldn't give up now. The night before the final test, Cassie couldn't sleep. She stood on the balcony of her quarters, looking out at the city under the stars. Tomorrow she would stand before the king. Tomorrow his wolf would either accept or reject her, most likely reject, and she would go home. Back to her mother, back to poverty, back to being invisible. But at least she'd tried. At least she could tell her mother she'd been brave. Can't sleep either. Cassie jumped and turned to find Vivian stepping onto the balcony. "Sorry, didn't mean to scare you," Vivian said with a gentle smile. She joined Cassie at the railing. "Tomorrow is the big day." "Are you nervous?" Cassie asked. "Terrified," Vivian admitted. "My whole pack is counting on me. My family has invested everything in my training, my education. If I fail—" "You won't fail," Cassie said. "You're amazing." Vivian laughed softly. "I'm trained. There's a difference. You, though, you're genuine. That's rarer than you think." They stood in comfortable silence for a moment. "Do you want to be Luna?" Vivian asked suddenly. Cassie considered the question honestly. "I don't know," she said finally. "I never dreamed I could be. I came here to change my family's situation, to give my mother a better life. But the thought of actually being queen, it's terrifying. I don't know anything about ruling. I'd probably make 100 mistakes." "But you'd care," Vivian said quietly. "You genuinely care about people. Not everyone does." Another pause. "What about you?" Cassie asked. "I've been trained for this my whole life," Vivian said. "But honestly, I think I'd be relieved if the wolf rejected me. Is that terrible to say?" "No," Cassie said. "It's honest." They both smiled. "Whatever happens tomorrow," Vivian said. "I'm glad I met you, Cassie Moonwhisper." "I'm glad I met you too." Across the palace, in the royal chambers, Marcus stood at his own window. His wolf was restless, pacing inside his mind. "Tomorrow," the wolf said. "Yes, tomorrow," Marcus agreed. "She'll be there. They'll all be there. 5 candidates. But she'll be there," the wolf insisted. Marcus frowned. "You're fixated on that Frostfang Omega. Why?" The wolf had no words for it. Only feeling, recognition, rightness, home. Marcus shook his head. "She's not even in the same class as the others. Aurora has royal blood. Isabella is a trained diplomat. Even Serena has political value." "They're empty vessels," the wolf said dismissively. "Pretty shells with nothing inside." "And the Frostfang Omega?" "She's real." Marcus didn't know what to make of that, but he'd learned over 12 years to trust his wolf's instincts, even when they terrified him. Morning came too quickly. The 5 finalists were prepared by servants. Cassie wore a gown of silver silk that made her look ethereal. Her dark hair was arranged in an elegant style. She barely recognized herself in the mirror. "You look beautiful," the servant said kindly. Cassie's hands trembled. They were led to the throne room, not the great hall, but the actual throne room where the king held court. It was smaller than the great hall, but infinitely more intimidating. Black stone walls, silver inlay, torches that burned with blue flame. Ancient wolf heads mounted on the walls, preserved by magic, seemed to watch with glowing eyes. And at the center, elevated on the black stone dais, sat the throne, still empty. The room was packed with nobles, council members, IPAC representatives, and guards. Every eye turned to watch as the 5 finalists entered. Cassie's heart hammered so hard she thought it might burst from her chest. They were arranged in a line before the throne, in alphabetical order by first name: Aurora, Cassie, Isabella, Serena, Vivienne. High Priestess Selene stood to the side of the throne, her white robes glowing in the torchlight. "The final test," she announced, her voice carrying through the chamber, "is simple. The king's wolf will meet each candidate. The wolf knows. The wolf always knows. Whomever the wolf accepts will become Luna. There is no appeal, no negotiation. The wolf's choice is absolute." A side door opened, and King Marcus Silverclaw entered. Cassie's breath caught. She'd never seen him in person. She'd glimpsed him from a distance during public events. But never like this. Never close. He was magnificent. Tall, powerfully built, moving with a predator's grace. He wore black and silver ceremonial armor, a crown of dark metal and moonstone on his head. His golden eyes swept the room with calm authority. This was the most powerful alpha in all the territories. This was the king who had rejected 100 potential mates. He ascended the dais and sat on his throne. The entire room seemed to hold its breath. "Begin," he said simply. Aurora stepped forward first. Beautiful, elegant, her posture perfect. Her family bloodline was impeccable. She bowed deeply. "Your Majesty." Marcus studied her for a long moment. Inside, his wolf observed her with detached interest. "Pretty," the wolf acknowledged, "but empty. No substance. Reject." Marcus trusted the wolf's judgment. "No," he said simply. Aurora's face crumbled, but she held her composure. She bowed again and stepped back. Dismissed. A servant escorted her out as she fought tears. Isabella was next. The trained diplomat had prepared for this moment her entire life. She was graceful, intelligent, well-spoken. Marcus's wolf barely looked at her, calculating. All mind, no heart, reject. "No," Marcus said. Isabella's jaw tightened, but she maintained her diplomatic mask. She bowed and left. Serena practically glowed as she stepped forward. From her own pack, the beta's daughter. She'd been telling everyone she would win. She bowed with practiced elegance. "Your Majesty, I would be honored to serve as your Luna." Marcus's wolf growled softly. "Ambitious, cruel, selfish, reject immediately." "No," Serena's mask slipped. "But your Majesty, I am from a respected bloodline. I have been trained." "No," Marcus repeated, his voice harder. Serena's face flushed with humiliation and rage, but she had no choice. She bowed stiffly and left. Two remained. Vivian and Cassie exchanged glances. Vivian stepped forward. She was lovely, genuine, kind, everything a Luna should be. Marcus's wolf considered her carefully. "Good heart," the wolf acknowledged. "Would serve well, but not ours. Not meant for us. Reject." Marcus felt a flicker of regret. Vivian would have been a fine choice, politically safe, respected, but the wolf was certain. "No," he said, but this time his tone was gentler. "You will make an excellent Luna for another alpha, Vivian of Golden Crest, but not for me." Vivian smiled sadly and bowed. "Thank you, Your Majesty." She left with dignity, and only one remained, Cassie, the Omega from nowhere. The scrub girl with no training, no bloodline, no political value, standing alone before the throne. The entire court watched in confusion. Had the king rejected all of them? Would there be no Luna at all? "Step forward," Marcus commanded. Cassie's legs barely obeyed. She walked toward the throne on trembling legs, her eyes downcast. Inside Marcus, his wolf surged forward with such force that it nearly took his breath away. "Her! Her! Her!" The wolf practically screamed it. Cassie stopped at the base of the dais and dropped into a deep curtsy, her head bowed. "Your Majesty," she whispered, her voice shaking. Marcus stood from his throne. His wolf was roaring now, demanding to be released, demanding to get closer to her. "Let me see her," the wolf demanded. "Let me confirm what I already know." Marcus descended the steps slowly. Cassie kept her eyes down, shaking like a leaf. "Look at me," Marcus said. She raised her eyes, and the moment their gazes met, the bond snapped into place like a physical thing. Marcus felt it like lightning down his spine. The mating bond, dormant for 34 years, roaring to life with savage intensity. His wolf howled in triumph. "Mate! Ours, finally!" Cassie gasped, clearly feeling it too. Her eyes went wide, silver flickering in their depths as her own wolf recognized the call. The throne room erupted in whispers. Marcus couldn't stop himself. His wolf took partial control, his eyes flashing pure silver. And before he knew what he was doing, before he could think about politics or appearances or what anyone would say, King Marcus Silverclaw, the most feared alpha in the realm, descended the final steps, stood before Cassie Moonwhisper, and knelt, then bowed his head to her. The throne room exploded in chaos, gasps, shouts, shocked exclamations. "Impossible!" He bowed. The king bowed. "She's nobody! This can't be happening." But Marcus barely heard them. His wolf was at peace for the first time in his life. "Perfect," the wolf purred. "She's perfect." Cassie stood frozen, tears streaming down her face. Marcus looked up at her, and even though his wolf was partially in control, his human heart agreed completely. "My wolf has chosen," he said, his voice carrying through the chaos, "and the wolf never lies." He stood, took Cassie's trembling hand, and led her up the dais to stand beside his throne, to stand where a Luna belonged. Chancellor Darius looked like he'd been struck by lightning. Lady Morgana was smiling slightly. High Priestess Selene bowed her head in acknowledgement. The prophecy had begun to fulfill itself. The announcement of Cassie as the chosen Luna sent shockwaves through the kingdom. Noble families who had groomed their daughters for years were outraged. Political alliances carefully constructed around potential marriage candidates collapsed overnight. and some saw opportunity in the chaos. In the days following the selection, while Cassie was being prepared for her new role, plots began to form in shadowed corners. Lord Blackthorn of the Eastern Territories gathered his allies in a private meeting. A common Omega with no training, no bloodline, no political value, he said, his voice dripping with disdain. The king has gone mad. The wolf chose her, Lady Ashford pointed out carefully. We cannot dispute. The wolf was tricked, Lord Blackthorn interrupted. Some magic, some deception. I refuse to believe that a girl from Frostfang Pack is the destined mate of our king. What are you suggesting? Duke Harrow asked. I'm suggesting, Blackthorn said slowly, that if the Omega were to disappear, before the mating ceremony is completed, the bond would break. The king would be free to choose properly. Silence filled the room as the implications sank in. You speak of murder, Lady Ashford said quietly. I speak of protecting the kingdom from a disastrous mistake. Not everyone agreed, but enough listened. Meanwhile, Cassie was drowning in her new reality. She'd been moved to the royal wing, given a suite of rooms that was larger than her entire house back home. Servants attended her constantly. Teachers attempted to cram years of political education into days. Madame Thorne drilled her on protocol until Cassie's head spun. You must learn to address the Duke of Westmarch as Your Grace, not Sir, Madame Thorne said sharply. And when the Crimson Moon delegation arrives, you must greet them in their traditional tongue, which you still haven't mastered. I'm trying, Cassie said, exhausted. Trying isn't sufficient. You are to be Luna, the queen. Every mistake you make reflects on the king. Cassie felt the weight of it crushing her. She'd sent word to her mother, of course. Elena had sent back a letter full of joy and pride and love, but Cassie couldn't shake the feeling that she was an imposter playing dress-up. Marcus noticed. He'd been watching her struggle, had seen the exhaustion in her eyes, the way she flinched when Madame Thorne criticized her. That evening, he dismissed the servants and found Cassie in her study, surrounded by books on kingdom law and pack politics, her head in her hands. You look like you're preparing for war, he said from the doorway. Cassie jumped, then immediately stood and curtsied. Your Majesty, I apologize, I was just… Cassie, she stopped. You don't have to curtsy to me when we're alone, Marcus said gently. And you can call me Marcus. That would be improper. We're betrothed, he pointed out. You're going to be my mate. I think we can dispense with excessive formality in private. Cassie sat back down slowly, still uncertain. Marcus entered the study and sat across from her, not looming over her but meeting her at eye level. How are you really doing? He asked. The kindness in his voice broke something in Cassie. I'm failing, she admitted, her voice cracking. Every day I fail at something else. I don't know the right titles, the right words, the right protocols. I can't speak 3 languages or debate philosophy or… Cassie, she stopped, looking at him. You're not failing, Marcus said firmly. You're learning. There's a difference. But everyone expected someone from a noble family who'd been trained for this since birth, Marcus interrupted. Instead, they got you. Someone real, someone genuine, someone my wolf recognized as my perfect match. Your wolf might have made a mistake, Cassie said quietly. Marcus's eyes flashed gold. My wolf never makes mistakes. He leaned forward. Do you know what I see when I look at you? He asked. I see someone who gave away her last coin to help a servant she'd never met. Someone who faced her worst fears and didn't break. Someone who stumbled in a dance and kept going. Not because she's perfect, but because she's brave. Cassie's eyes filled with tears. Those other Omegas, Marcus continued, they would have been competent Lunas, efficient, politically savvy, but they would have been… He searched for the word. Cold. All mind, no heart. The kingdom doesn't need another cold ruler. It has me for that. You're not cold, Cassie said before she could stop herself. Marcus raised an eyebrow. I mean, you're stern and intimidating, but She fumbled for words. When you talk about the kingdom, when you make decisions, it's not cruelty. It's protection. That's different. Something shifted in Marcus's expression. That's what I mean, he said softly. You see things others don't. You don't need years of political training to understand what matters. It's already in you. They sat in silence for a moment. I'm still terrified, Cassie admitted. Good, Marcus said. If you weren't afraid, you'd be a fool. Fear keeps you careful. It keeps you humble. It reminds you what's at stake. He stood and held out his hand. Come with me. Cassie took his hand, his warmth steadying her. He led her through the palace, not to any formal room, but up to the highest tower. From there, they could see the entire kingdom spread out below. Lights from the city, mountains in the distance, forest stretching to the horizon. This is what you're preparing for, Marcus said. Not protocol and titles, them. Every single one of those lights is someone counting on their rulers to keep them safe, to make wise decisions, to care about their lives. Cassie looked out at the vast expanse. You don't need to be perfect, Marcus said. You just need to care. And you do. I've seen it. My wolf saw it. That's why you're here. Cassie felt something settle in her chest. She was still afraid, but she wasn't alone. The plots against Cassie escalated. 3 days before the mating ceremony, a servant delivered wine to her chambers. Cassie, exhausted from another day of lessons, accepted it gratefully. She was about to drink when Vivian, who had remained at the palace as Cassie's lady-in-waiting and friend, knocked on the door. Cassie, do you have a moment to... She stopped, seeing the wine. Where did that come from? A servant brought it. Why? Vivian's eyes narrowed. What servant? What did they look like? I didn't really notice. An older woman, I think. There are no older female servants assigned to this wing. The blood drained from Cassie's face. Vivian grabbed the wine and sniffed it carefully. Her face went pale. Poison, she whispered. Moon's bane. Undetectable by scent to anyone except wolves trained to recognize it. It would have killed you within hours. Cassie's hands started shaking. Vivian immediately called for guards. Within minutes, the royal wing was flooded with security. Marcus arrived, his face thunderous with rage. Someone tried to poison my mate, he said, his voice deadly calm. The kind of calm that preceded violence. Find them, General Thorne commanded the guards. Search every inch of this palace. I want that servant found. But the assassin had vanished. Marcus insisted Cassie move to chambers directly connected to his own, with guards stationed at every entrance. That night, Cassie couldn't sleep. She stood at the window watching the moon. A soft knock at the connecting door. Come in, she said quietly. Marcus entered, still dressed despite the late hour. You should be resting, he said. I can't. He came to stand beside her. They want me dead, Cassie said flatly. The nobles. They think I'm not worthy. They're fools. Are they? Cassie looked at him. Marcus, be honest. If your wolf hadn't chosen me, would you have looked at me twice? Would I have even registered in your awareness? Marcus was quiet for a long moment. No, he admitted. Probably not. Not because you're not worthy. But because I would have been looking for the wrong things. I would have been looking at bloodlines and training and political advantages. I would have missed what actually matters. He turned to face her fully. But my wolf is wiser than I am. It saw past all the surface things to what's real. And now that I've gotten to know you, the real you, I can't imagine choosing anyone else. Cassie's breath caught. I'm falling in love with you, Cassie Moonwhisper, Marcus said quietly. Not because you're my fated mate, not because my wolf chose you, but because you're you. Kind, brave, genuine. You make me want to be better than I am. Tears spilled down Cassie's cheeks. I don't know how to be what everyone needs me to be, she whispered. Then just be what I need you to be, Marcus said. My partner, my balance, my Luna. He reached up, and gently wiped her tears away. "And I will burn down anyone who tries to harm you." The promise in his voice was absolute. Cassie believed him. General Thorne's investigation revealed a conspiracy larger than anyone had expected. 7 noble families were involved in the plot to kill Cassie. Lord Blackthorne was at the center, but he had allies among the council itself. When Marcus learned the full extent of the betrayal, his rage was terrifying. He called an emergency council session. Every member sat in tense silence as Marcus paced before them like a caged predator. 7 families, he said, his voice cold. 7 of my own nobles conspired to murder an innocent Omega because they didn't approve of my wolf's choice. No one spoke. "Chancellor Darius," Marcus said sharply. "Wait, did you know?" Darius straightened. "Your Majesty, I knew there was discontent, but I did not know the extent of the plot. Had I known of the assassination attempt, I would have reported it immediately." Marcus stared at him for a long moment, then nodded. "General Thorne, bring me Lord Blackthorne, now." Within the hour, Lord Blackthorne was dragged before the throne in chains. He still had the arrogance to look defiant. "You dare imprison me?" he spat. "I am a lord of this realm." "You are a traitor," Marcus said quietly. "You conspired to kill my chosen mate. The punishment for such treason is death." "She is not worthy of you," Blackthorne shouted. "A commoner, a nobody. You should have chosen—" "I chose nothing," Marcus interrupted, his voice like ice. "My wolf chose." "And you questioned that choice not out of concern for the kingdom, but out of injured pride because I didn't choose your daughter." Blackthorne's face flushed. "Take him to the dungeons," Marcus commanded. "He will stand trial before the full court, as will every conspirator." As guards dragged Blackthorne away, Marcus addressed the rest of the council. "Let me be absolutely clear," he said. "Cassandra Moonwhisper is my chosen Luna. She will be my mate. She will be your queen. Anyone who threatens her, insults her, or questions her place by my side will answer to me personally. Is that understood?" A chorus of, "Yes, Your Majesty," filled the room. But Marcus wasn't finished. "Furthermore," he said, "any Omega, regardless of rank or birth, who serves this kingdom with honor will be respected. We will no longer tolerate discrimination based on bloodline alone. Merit, character, and service will determine worth in this kingdom. This new law takes effect immediately." The council members exchanged shocked glances. This was revolutionary. The old power structures built on generations of bloodline privilege were being challenged, but no one dared argue with their king, especially not when his eyes glowed with barely suppressed wolf. That evening, Cassie asked to attend the trial of Lord Blackthorne. Marcus was surprised. "You don't have to be there," he said. "This will be unpleasant." "He tried to kill me," Cassie said quietly. "I should face him." Marcus studied her for a moment, then nodded. "Very well." The trial was held in the great hall before the entire court. Lord Blackthorne was brought in chains. The evidence was presented. Witnesses testified to his conspiracy. He showed no remorse. "I did what I believed was right for the kingdom," he said when given a chance to speak. "A common Omega has no place on the throne. This king has gone mad, controlled by his beast rather than his reason." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Marcus's face was stone. "Do you have anything else to say before I pass sentence?" he asked. "Only that history will prove me right," Blackthorne said. "When this kingdom crumbles under weak leadership—" "Enough," Marcus said. "You are found guilty of treason and attempted murder. The sentence is death by beheading at dawn." Gasps filled the room. It was the expected sentence, but hearing it pronounced made it real. "However," Marcus continued, and everyone froze, "I will offer you one mercy. If you publicly renounce your treason, if you swear loyalty to your future Luna before this court, I will commute your sentence to life imprisonment and exile from the capital. You will live, but you will never hold power again." Blackthorn's face twisted with rage. "I will never bow to that—" "Wait." Everyone turned. Cassie had stood up. Marcus looked at her in surprise. Cassie walked forward, her heart pounding until she stood before the throne. Then she turned to face Lord Blackthorn. "You tried to kill me," she said, her voice clear and steady. "Because you thought I wasn't worthy. Because I came from nothing. Because I don't have the bloodline or training you think a Luna should have." Blackthorn glared at her but said nothing. "You're right," Cassie continued. "I don't have those things. I probably never will. I'll make mistakes. I'll fail sometimes. I'll need help and guidance." She took a breath. "But I will never stop caring about the people of this kingdom. Every single one. Not just the nobles and the powerful, but the servants, the workers, the forgotten packs on the borders. Because I was one of them. I know what it's like to struggle, to be overlooked, to feel worthless." Her voice grew stronger. "And maybe that's exactly what this kingdom needs. Not someone who was born to power, but someone who earned it. Not someone who sees the people as subjects, but as people." She looked directly at Blackthorn. "I forgive you for trying to kill me," she said. "Not because you deserve forgiveness, but because I refuse to let your hate poison me. I choose mercy over vengeance." She turned to Marcus. "Exile him," she said. "Let him live. Killing him won't change anyone's mind about me, but showing mercy might." The hall was completely silent. Marcus stared at her, something like awe in his eyes. Then he stood. "My Luna has spoken," he said, "and I agree with her judgment. Lord Blackthorn, you are hereby sentenced to life exile. You will be stripped of your titles and lands. You will leave this kingdom and never return. If you do, the death sentence will be carried out immediately. Take him away." As guards led Blackthorn out, still spitting curses, Cassie felt her legs go weak. Marcus caught her hand. "That was—" he began. "Foolish?" Cassie whispered. "Magnificent," Marcus said. "You just proved to everyone in this room exactly why you belong on that throne." With the conspiracy crushed and Blackthorn exiled, preparations for the mating ceremony resumed. Cassie received a letter from her mother. "My dearest Cassie, I can hardly believe the news. My daughter, chosen as Luna. I knew you were special from the moment you were born, but even I could not have dreamed this. Everyone in Frostfang Pack is celebrating. They're calling you the Silver Luna, the fulfillment of the old prophecy. I've told them you're still the same Cassie who helped me with laundry and cooked meals and cared for others. I'm so proud of you. Your father would be too. The king has been generous. He sent funds to improve our pack's territory, new resources for the winter. Some say it's political, but I know better. He loves you. I can tell from how he looks at you in the paintings the messengers have shown us. Be brave, my silver moon. You were born for this." With all my love, Mother Cassie cried, reading it, overwhelmed with gratitude and homesickness. Marcus found her in tears and immediately became concerned. "What's wrong?" "Nothing," Cassie said, smiling through tears. I miss my mother, and I'm so grateful for everything you've done for my pack." Marcus sat beside her. "Your mother is invited to the ceremony, of course," he said. "I've arranged for her to travel here with a full escort. She'll arrive 2 days before the ceremony." Cassie's eyes went wide. You did that?" "Of course. She's family now." Cassie threw her arms around him without thinking. Marcus stiffened for just a moment. Physical affection was not something he was used to, then slowly wrapped his arms around her, holding her close. "Thank you," Cassie whispered. "You don't have to thank me for this," Marcus said quietly. "I know what family means. I lost mine young. I won't let you lose yours." They stayed like that for a long moment, and Cassie realized something. She was truly falling in love with this fierce, protective king who showed his heart only in private moments like these. The ceremony was set for the next full moon, 3 days away. Cassie was fitted for her ceremonial gown, pure white silk with silver embroidery depicting wolves and moon phases. It was beautiful beyond words. Marcus would wear his formal regalia, black and silver armor, the crown of the Silver Claw dynasty. The ceremony would be held in the ancient temple beneath the palace where the first kings had been crowned. Only after the ceremony would they complete the mating bond, the bite that would mark Cassie as his forever, that would link their wolves and their lives. Cassie was nervous about that part. Vivienne tried to reassure her. "The bite itself only hurts for a moment," she explained. "Then well, they say it's the most intense pleasure you'll ever feel, the mating bond completing." "Have you?" Cassie asked. "No," Vivienne said. "I haven't found my mate yet, but I've seen enough mating ceremonies to know what to expect." "What if I do something wrong?" Vivienne laughed gently. "Cassie, you can't do anything wrong. It's instinct. Your wolf will know what to do, and Marcus will be gentle with you. Trust me, he adores you." "He barely knows me." "He knows enough," Vivienne said. "I've seen how he looks at you, like you're the moon, and he's been walking in darkness his whole life." 2 days before the ceremony, Elena Moonwhisper arrived at the palace. Cassie ran to meet her, all protocol forgotten. Embraced her mother in the entrance hall. "Mother!" "My precious girl," Elena said, tears streaming down her face. "Look at you. You look like a queen already." "I'm still just me," Cassie said. "No," Elena said, pulling back to look at her daughter. "You're more than you were. You've grown. I can see it in your eyes." Marcus appeared in the hallway, and Elena immediately tried to curtsy. "Please," Marcus said. "You're family. No need for such formality." Elena looked at him with a mother's assessing eye. "You're the king who chose my daughter." "I am." "Do you love her?" Marcus didn't hesitate. "Yes." "Will you protect her?" "With my life." "Will you value her, even when she makes mistakes?" "Especially then." Elena smiled. "Then you have my blessing." Cassie's eyes filled with tears. Just the three of them had dinner together that evening. Just the three of them, no servants, no formality. Elena told embarrassing stories about Cassie's childhood. Marcus shared rare stories about his own youth. Cassie laughed more than she had in weeks. For a moment, it felt like a real family, and Cassie realized this was what she'd been afraid to hope for. Not just survival, but happiness. The eve of the mating ceremony was sacred. By tradition, the betrothed spent the night in separate chambers, in meditation and preparation. Cassie stood in her rooms, wearing a simple white nightgown, looking at herself in the mirror. Tomorrow, she would become Luna. Tomorrow, she would be bound to Marcus forever. Tomorrow, everything changed. High Priestess Selene arrived to perform the ritual blessing. "Are you ready?" she asked. I don't know," Cassie admitted. Selene smiled. "Honesty. Good. The moon values truth above all things." She had Cassie kneel and placed her hand on Cassie's head. "You are about to undertake the most sacred bond our kind knows," Selene said. "The mating bond transcends mere marriage. It is a joining of souls, of wolves, of destinies. Once complete, you will feel what he feels. Know what he knows. His strength will be yours, and yours will be his." "What if I'm not strong enough?" Cassie whispered. "You are the balance," Selene said. "He is the mountain, strong, immovable, protective. You are the river, adaptable, nurturing, life-giving. Together you are complete. Apart, you are less than you could be." She drew symbols on Cassie's forehead with sacred oil. "The prophecy spoke of you, you know." Cassie looked up in surprise. The Luna from nowhere who would bring the king to his knees, who would change the kingdom not through power but through heart. "I'm just an Omega from a poor pack," Cassie said. "You are the Silver Luna," Selene corrected. "Chosen by the wolf, blessed by the moon. Never doubt your worth again, child. The universe does not make mistakes." After Selene left, Cassie lay awake for hours. She thought about her father, wished he could have seen this. She thought about her mother, sleeping in guest quarters nearby, finally able to rest without working herself to exhaustion. She thought about Marcus, probably awake in his own chambers, his wolf pacing restlessly, and she thought about tomorrow, the ceremony, the bond, the future. She was still afraid, but she was ready. In his chambers, Marcus stood at the window, bare-chested, his wolf barely contained beneath his skin. "Tomorrow," the wolf said for the 100th time. "Yes, tomorrow. She's ours, finally ours." "She's her own person," Marcus corrected. "The bond doesn't mean possession." "No," the wolf agreed. "It means partnership, equals, two halves of one whole." Marcus thought about the past week since Cassie had arrived, how she'd changed him, made him question assumptions he'd held his entire life, made him feel things he'd thought himself incapable of feeling, made him want to be better than he was. "I hope I'm worthy of her," he said quietly. "We are," the wolf said with certainty. "We will be. We'll spend our lives proving it." A knock at the door. "Enter." General Thorne entered and bowed. "Your Majesty, I wanted to report that security for tomorrow is in place. Every entrance to the temple will be guarded. No one enters without thorough screening. There will be no threats to your Luna." "Good," Marcus said. "Thank you, General." Thorne hesitated. "Permission to speak freely, Your Majesty?" "Granted. I was skeptical. When you chose the Frostfang Omega, I thought it was a mistake, a moment of weakness. I was wrong." Marcus turned to look at him. "She's remarkable," Thorne continued. "The way she handled the Blackthorn situation, the way she's conducted herself despite intense pressure. She has the heart of a warrior. You chose well." "My wolf chose well," Marcus corrected. "Yes, Your Majesty, your wolf did." After Thorne left, Marcus returned to the window. Below, the city was quiet, everyone asleep, preparing for tomorrow's celebration. "I won't let you down," Marcus whispered to the night, speaking to Cassie though she couldn't hear. "I promise." The moon hung full and bright overhead, and tomorrow, under that same moon, two souls would become one. The day dawned clear and beautiful. The entire capital city was decorated with silver ribbons and moonflowers. Every pack in the kingdom had sent representatives. The streets were filled with celebration. Cassie was prepared by a team of attendants. Her gown was even more beautiful than she remembered. White silk that seemed to shimmer with its own light. Silver embroidery so intricate it looked like frost patterns. Her dark hair was arranged in an elaborate style woven with moonflowers and silver thread. Around her neck, she wore a pendant Marcus had given her the night before, a crescent moon made of moonstone and silver. "You look like a goddess," Vivian said, tears in her eyes. Elena couldn't even speak. She was crying so hard with pride and joy. "I'm so nervous," Cassie admitted. "That's normal," Vivian said. "But once you see him, once the ceremony begins, the nerves will fade. Trust me." Cassie was escorted through the palace by guards in ceremonial armor. The path to the ancient temple led down through the mountain itself, through carved corridors lit by glowing crystals. The temple was a massive chamber carved from living stone, its ceiling open to the sky above. Moonlight filtered down during the day through spelled glass that made it look like perpetual twilight. The temple was packed with witnesses, every noble family, every pack representative, the council, guards, and common folk too. Marcus had insisted that citizens be allowed to attend, something unprecedented. They all stood as Cassie entered. At the far end of the temple, before the altar carved with ancient wolf symbols, stood Marcus. He wore black and silver armor that made him look like a warrior king from legend. The crown on his head caught the light. His golden eyes locked on Cassie the moment she appeared. Cassie's breath caught. He was magnificent, and he was looking at her like she was the only person in the world. She walked down the aisle between rows of witnesses, her mother and Vivian walking behind her. With each step, Cassie felt her wolf rising, anticipating. When she reached the altar, Marcus took her hand. "You're beautiful," he whispered. "You're not so bad yourself," Cassie whispered back, and he smiled. High Priestess Selene stood before them, arms raised. "We gather under the moon's light to witness the sacred bond between Alpha and Omega, between King and Luna, ways between mates destined by fate itself." The ceremony was ancient, the words in the old tongue. Selene spoke of duty, of honor, of love that transcended self. She called upon the moon to bless the union. She called upon the first wolves to bear witness. Then came the vows. Marcus spoke first, his voice strong and clear. "I, Marcus Silverclaw, Alpha King of all territories, pledge myself to you, Cassandra Moonwhisper. I vow to protect you, to honor you, to stand beside you in strength and in weakness. I vow to value your counsel, to respect your heart, to love you with everything I am. My wolf is yours, my soul is yours, until the end of time." Cassie's turn. She took a shaky breath and spoke. "I, Cassandra Moonwhisper, pledge myself to you, Marcus Silverclaw. I vow to stand beside you, to support you, to challenge you when needed and comfort you always. I vow to serve this kingdom with all my heart, to never forget where I came from or who I serve. My wolf is yours, my soul is yours, until the end of time." Selene smiled. "Then by the power vested in me by the moon itself, I declare you mated in spirit. What remains is the bond of flesh." She gestured to a private chamber behind the altar. This part of the ceremony was sacred, witnessed by no one. Marcus led Cassie into the chamber. It was small, intimate, lit only by moonlight through a crystal ceiling. "Are you afraid?" Marcus asked gently. "A little," Cassie admitted. "We can wait if you're not ready." "I'm ready," Cassie said. "I trust you." Marcus cupped her face in his hands. "This will hurt for just a moment," he said. "Then the bond will complete. You'll feel everything I feel. You'll know I'm yours forever. And you'll know you're mine," Cassie said. Marcus smiled. Then he kissed her. It was soft at first, gentle, asking permission. Cassie kissed him back, her hands coming up to his chest. The kiss deepened. Marcus's wolf rose, and Cassie felt her own wolf respond. They were both partially shifted, eyes glowing, canines lengthening, power crackling between them. Marcus pulled back enough to look at her. "Ready?" Cassie tilted her head, exposing her neck in submission and trust. Marcus lowered his head and bit down on the junction of her neck and shoulder. The pain was sharp. Then the bond snapped into place. Cassie gasped as sensation flooded through her. She could feel Marcus's emotions: love, fierce protectiveness, desire, devotion. She could feel his wolf, satisfied, content, finally complete. She could feel his soul intertwining with hers, and he could feel her courage, her kindness, her fears, her hopes, her love for him. The mark on her neck glowed silver for a moment, then settled into a beautiful pattern that would remain forever. A claim, a blessing, a symbol of their bond. Marcus pulled back, his own neck bearing her mark now too. Their eyes met, and they both smiled. "My Luna," Marcus whispered. "My king," Cassie whispered back. They emerged from the chamber to thunderous celebration. The bond was complete. The kingdom had its Luna, and the prophecy had been fulfilled. The celebration lasted 3 days, but on the 4th day, Cassie made her first official act as Luna. She called a council meeting and presented a proposal she'd been working on in secret. "I want to establish the Luna's Fund," she announced, "a program to provide resources to struggling packs and families across the kingdom. Education for Omega children, healthcare, emergency assistance. We have wealth in this kingdom, but it's not distributed equally." Some council members looked skeptical. "That would require significant resources," Chancellor Darius pointed out. "I'm aware," Cassie said calmly. "I propose funding it through a small tax on noble estates and trade profits. Those who have benefited most from the kingdom's prosperity can afford to contribute to those who haven't. That's unprecedented, Lady Morgana said, though her tone was more thoughtful than dismissive. So was choosing a commoner as Luna, Cassie countered. But here we are. Marcus watched her from his throne, pride radiating through their bond. The Luna makes a valid point, he said. I support this initiative. With the king's backing, the council had little choice but to approve. The Luna's fund was established. Within months, it was transforming lives across the kingdom. Children who had never had access to education were learning to read and write. Families on the brink of starvation received food and resources. Sick wolves got medical care, and Cassie personally visited struggling packs, listening to their needs, understanding their situations. She never forgot where she came from. She never let power change who she was at her core. The people loved her for it. Not everyone was pleased with the changes. Some nobles saw their wealth diminished by the new taxes. Some alphas resented a Luna who questioned old traditions. 6 months into Cassie's reign as Luna, a challenge arose. Lord Griffin from the Southern Territories demanded an audience with the king. Your Majesty, he said, his tone barely respectful. The old ways are being eroded. Omegas are being elevated beyond their station. Rank and bloodline, which have governed our society for generations, are being dismissed as meaningless. This cannot stand. Are you challenging my authority? Marcus asked, his voice dangerously calm. I am requesting that you reconsider some of the more radical changes your Luna has implemented. You mean the changes that have reduced poverty and increased loyalty among the outer packs? Cassie said, stepping forward. The changes that have strengthened the kingdom's foundation? With respect, Luna, Griffin said, his tone suggesting no respect at all. You are young and inexperienced. You do not understand the delicate balance of power that has kept this kingdom stable for centuries. Then explain it to me, Cassie said. Explain how keeping wolves in poverty strengthens anything. Explain how denying education to children benefits the kingdom. Explain how hoarding wealth among a few families makes us more secure. Griffin's face reddened. You speak from emotion, not wisdom. I speak from experience, Cassie said firmly. I've lived the life you've never even witnessed. I know what it's like to go hungry, to watch my mother work herself sick, to feel worthless because of circumstances beyond my control. That experience gives me wisdom you'll never have. The throne room was silent. Furthermore, Cassie continued, strength doesn't come from oppression. It comes from unity. When every wolf in this kingdom knows they matter, when they're invested in our success, they fight harder to defend it. But when they're forgotten, ignored, treated as less than, why would they care if we fall? She looked directly at Griffin. You want stability? Give people hope. That's how you build something that lasts. Marcus stood from his throne. The Luna speaks with my full authority, he said. Her programs will continue. Her vision will be implemented. If you cannot accept that, Lord Griffin, there's the door. Griffin left, furious but silenced. After the council session, Marcus pulled Cassie aside. That was incredible, he said. I was terrified, Cassie admitted. Didn't show, Marcus said, kissing her forehead. You're a natural leader, Cassie, even when you don't believe it yourself. Through their bond, Cassie felt his genuine pride, his love, his certainty in her. It strengthened her more than any words could. A year into Cassie's reign as Luna, word came of trouble from beyond the kingdom's borders. The Shadowlands, territories to the far north ruled by rogue wolves and dark magic, were mobilizing. Their leader, a powerful alpha named Malachi, had declared his intention to conquer the southern kingdoms, including Marcus's. How strong is his force? Marcus asked General Thorne during the Emergency War Council. Estimates put it at 50,000 warriors, Thorne said grimly, and they're reinforced with dark magic, spells that enhance their strength, protect them from conventional weapons. We can field 30,000, Marcus said, Not enough. We could call on allied packs, Chancellor Darius suggested. But mustering those forces would take months. Malachi will be at our borders within weeks. Cassie listened to the debate, her mind racing. What if we didn't fight? She said suddenly. Everyone turned to look at her. Negotiate? Darius said incredulously. With Malachi. He's a barbarian. He respects only strength. Then we show him strength, Cassie said. But not the strength of armies, the strength of unity. Marcus understood immediately. You want to unite the packs, he said. Every pack in the kingdom and beyond, Cassie said. Not as separate forces under different banners, but as one army, one purpose. And we show Malachi that we're not a divided kingdom ripe for conquest. But a united force willing to defend our home together. That would require cooperation between packs that have been rivals for generations, Lady Morgana said. I know, Cassie said. That's why I'll visit each one personally. I'll convince them. Too dangerous, Marcus said immediately, his protective instincts flaring through their bond. I'm not asking permission, Cassie said gently. I'm telling you what needs to be done. They won't unite for political rhetoric, but they might unite for someone who actually cares about them. Marcus wanted to refuse, but through their bond he felt Cassie's certainty, her determination, and he knew she was right. Fine, he said, but you take a full guard, and I'm coming with you to the most dangerous territories. Cassie smiled. Deal. For 3 weeks, Cassie traveled across the kingdom. She visited packs that had never seen a Luna in person. She sat with alphas who had led their packs for decades and listened to their grievances, their fears, their hopes. She ate in humble pack houses and grand halls alike, and everywhere she went, she spoke the same message. We are stronger together. Divided, we fall. United, we stand. In the Western Territories, she met Alpha Blackwood, a gruff old wolf who initially refused to even meet with her. Why should I commit my wolves to defend the capital? He demanded when she finally convinced him to speak. What has the capital ever done for us? Cassie didn't get defensive. You're right, she said. The capital has neglected the outer packs for too long. That's changing. But right now, we need to survive before we can build something better. If Malachi conquers the capital, do you think he'll stop there? He'll come for you next. For every pack. Alone, we each fall. Together, we have a chance. She paused. And after this is over, I promise you, things will be different. The outer packs will have voices in the council. Resources will be distributed fairly. But first, we have to win. Blackwood studied her for a long moment. You really believe that? I was one of you, Cassie said. From the poorest pack on the northern borders. I know what it's like to be forgotten. I won't forget. I promise you that. Blackwood pledged his forces. In the southern territories, she met alpha lions who had 3 young daughters. Will they be safe? He asked, his voice breaking slightly. If we lose, if Malachi comes here, we won't lose, Cassie said firmly. And I will personally ensure evacuation plans for all families if the worst happens. No child will be left behind. She meant it. Lion saw that she meant it. He pledged his forces. Pack by pack, territory by territory, Cassie united them. Not through threats or political maneuvering, but through genuine connection, through caring. By the time she returned to the capital, 52 packs had pledged their warriors. The army had swelled from 30,000 to 90,000, more than Malachi's forces. Marcus embraced her when she returned. You did it, he said, awe in his voice. You actually did it. We did it, Cassie corrected. All of us. Together. Malachi's forces arrived at the northern border 2 weeks later. The combined army of the United Packs met them on the plains of Silver Stone, a flat expanse perfect for large-scale battle. Marcus commanded from the center, his massive wolf form inspiring the troops. General Thorne commanded the left flank, Alpha Blackwood commanded the right. And Cassie remained at the command post, coordinating supplies, ensuring wounded warriors were evacuated, maintaining communication between the different pack forces. She had argued to fight, but Marcus had been firm. "You're Luna," he'd said. "If something happens to me, the kingdom needs you. You have to survive." Cassie had hated it, but agreed. The battle began at dawn. The clash of two massive armies shook the earth. Wolves fought in their beast forms, massive creatures tearing into each other with fang and claw. Dark magic from Malachi's forces created shadowy creatures, enhanced their warriors' strength. But the united packs had something Malachi didn't expect: coordination, trust, willingness to sacrifice for each other. Hours into the battle, Malachi himself entered the fray. He was enormous, larger even than Marcus, his fur black as midnight, his eyes glowing with unnatural red light. He carved through the army, heading straight for Marcus. The two alpha wolves collided with earth-shaking force. They fought like titans, their battle visible across the entire battlefield. Cassie watched from the command post, her heart in her throat, feeling every blow Marcus took through their bond. The fight was brutal, evenly matched. Then Malachi used dark magic. Shadows wrapped around Marcus, draining his strength. Marcus was losing. Cassie felt it through the bond. Without thinking, she shifted into her wolf form and ran. "Luna, I know!" guards shouted after her. But she didn't stop. She'd spent months training with the kingdom's best warriors, learning to fight despite having no formal training before. She might not be the strongest wolf, but she was fast, and she was desperate. She crashed into Malachi from the side, disrupting his concentration. The shadow magic faltered. Marcus broke free and lunged, his jaws finding Malachi's throat. But Malachi was stronger, throwing Marcus off. He turned on Cassie, his massive form looming over her. "A Luna who fights," he growled. "How quaint." He raised his claw to strike. Time seemed to slow. Cassie saw the blow coming, knew she couldn't dodge. Then Marcus was there, taking the hit meant for her. The claws raked across his side, tearing deep. Marcus howled in pain. Rage like Cassie had never felt flooded through her. Her wolf surged forward with primal fury. She might not be the strongest, but she was fighting for her mate, and that made her unstoppable. She moved faster than she'd ever moved, her smaller size an advantage, getting inside Malachi's guard. Her fangs found the soft underside of his throat. She bit down with everything she had. Malachi tried to throw her off, but Marcus, despite his wound, lunged again. Together, they brought the giant wolf down. Malachi shifted back to human form, blood pouring from his throat. "Impossible," he gasped. "A Luna defeated me." "Not a Luna," Cassie said, standing over him in her human form, blood on her lips. "A mate protecting her pack." Malachi died. With their leader fallen, his forces broke. The dark magic dissipated. The united packs won. Marcus's wounds were severe but not fatal. The kingdom's best healers worked for days to save him. Cassie never left his side. Through their bond, she poured her strength into him, willing him to survive. On the third day, he woke. "Did we win?" he asked, his voice weak. "We won," Cassie said, tears streaming down her face. "Thanks to you. Thanks to all of us." "You fought," Marcus said, a mixture of pride and reproach in his voice. "I told you to stay back." "And let you die?" Cassie said. "Never." Marcus smiled weakly. "My fierce Luna." The casualties had been heavy. Over 5,000 warriors killed, thousands more wounded. Cassie attended every funeral, spoke to every grieving family. She ensured that the families of the fallen received support, that their sacrifices were honored. She established the Heroes' Memorial in the capital, a place where the names of every fallen warrior were inscribed in stone, regardless of rank or pack. The united packs, having fought together, began to see each other differently. Old rivalries faded, new alliances formed. And when the time came to return to their territories, many pack leaders approached Cassie with the same question. Will you keep your promise? Will things really change? Yes, Cassie said. I promise you. And she kept that promise. Over the following months, the kingdom transformed. The Outer Council was established, representatives from every pack given equal voice in kingdom governance. Resources were redistributed more equitably, education programs expanded, healthcare improved, and slowly, as the kingdom that had been divided by class and rank began to unite around shared values. Marcus watched it all with amazement. You're changing the world, he told Cassie one evening as they stood on the palace balcony. We're changing it, Cassie corrected. Together. Marcus pulled her close. I love you, he said. Not because fate chose you, not because my wolf recognized you, but because you're you, and you make me better. I love you too, Cassie whispered. Through their bond, their emotions intertwined. Love, contentment, hope for the future. 2 years after the battle against Malachi, Cassie gave birth to twins, a boy and a girl. The boy they named Thomas, after Cassie's father. The girl they named Luna, in honor of the prophecy. The kingdom celebrated for days. But what shocked everyone was what happened during the naming ceremony. When High Priestess Selene blessed the children, their eyes glowed, not gold like most wolves, but pure silver. Whispers spread through the temple. The silver twins. The prophecy continues. That night, Selene spoke to Marcus and Cassie privately. Your children are special, she said. The bloodline of a king and a Luna who were prophesied. They will be powerful beyond measure. Will they be safe? Cassie asked, protective instincts flaring. If you raise them with wisdom, Selene said, teach them what you've learned. That power without compassion is tyranny. That strength is nothing without kindness. That being chosen doesn't make you better, it makes you responsible. Cassie and Marcus exchanged glances. We can do that, Marcus said. Over the next years, as they raised their children with those values, Thomas grew strong and brave, but also gentle and thoughtful. Luna grew fierce and independent, but also compassionate and wise. 2 more children followed, another boy named Alexander and another girl named Elena, after Cassie's mother. The palace that had once been cold and formal filled with laughter and warmth. Marcus, who had ruled with stern justice for so long, learned to smile more. Cassie, who had arrived at the palace terrified and overwhelmed, grew into her role with grace and confidence. Together, they were exactly what the prophecy had promised. Balance. 10 years after Cassie became Luna, the kingdom was unrecognizable from what it had been. The old class divisions had largely dissolved. Omegas could rise to positions of power based on merit, and every pack had representation in governance. Education was universal, healthcare was accessible to all, and the kingdom was stronger than it had ever been, not because of military might, though they had that too, but because the people believed in their rulers, trusted them, loved them. On the 10th anniversary of Cassie's selection as Luna, the kingdom held a massive celebration. Representatives from every pack attended. During the ceremony, an elder from the Northern Territories stood to speak. 10 years ago, he said, many of us doubted. A common Omega as Luna? It seemed impossible. Many predicted disaster. He paused. We were wrong. Luna Cassandra has proven that destiny cares nothing for bloodlines or wealth. She has given voice to the voiceless, strength to the weak, hope to the hopeless. She is not our Luna because she was chosen. She is our Luna because she chose us. Every single day she chooses us, and for that we are grateful. The crowd erupted in cheers. Cassie stood beside Marcus, tears in her eyes. Through their bond, she felt his overwhelming pride and love. That evening, alone in their chambers, Marcus held her close. Do you ever regret it? He asked. Being chosen? Having all this responsibility? Cassie thought about it. Thought about the girl she'd been, terrified, poor, invisible. Thought about the woman she'd become, confident, powerful, loved. Never, she said. Not for a single moment. Even with all the challenges, the danger, the weight of it all? Especially then, Cassie said, because it means I matter. My life has purpose. I can make a difference. She looked up at him. And because I get to spend every day with you, my mate, my partner, my love. Marcus kissed her softly. You are the greatest gift fate ever gave me, he said, and you are mine. 20 years after Cassie's selection as Luna, the palace echoed with different sounds than it once had. No longer the silent, austere fortress of Marcus's early reign. Now it was filled with life. Thomas, at 20, had grown into a powerful warrior and thoughtful leader. He trained with General Thorne and showed every sign of being an exceptional future king. Luna, also 20, twins born mere minutes apart, had become a diplomat and strategist. She traveled between packs, continuing her mother's work of building unity. Alexander, at 17, showed remarkable talent for magic and had been studying under High Priestess Selene. Elena, at 15, had her mother's compassionate heart and had already established her own charity programs for orphaned pups. Cassie and Marcus watched their children with pride. We did something right, Marcus said one evening as they stood on their favorite balcony, the same spot where he'd once shown Cassie the kingdoms spread out below. We did many things right, Cassie corrected, and some things wrong. But we learned. Her hair, now touched with silver at the temples, gleamed in the moonlight. Marcus, too, showed the passage of time, lines around his eyes, a distinguished air. But the bond between them was as strong as ever. Maybe stronger. The council wants Thomas to choose a mate soon, Marcus said. He will, Cassie said. When he finds the right one, we won't force him. No, Marcus agreed. We won't. They'd learned that lesson well. Elena's voice called from inside, Mother! Father! Grandmother Elena is here. Cassie's mother, now elderly but still spry, visited frequently. She'd become a beloved figure in the capital, a reminder of where Cassie had come from. The family gathered for dinner that evening, all of them, plus Vivian and her mate. She'd found him 3 years ago, a kind alpha from the Western Territories, plus General Thorne and his family. The table was long, the food abundant, the laughter genuine. This was what Cassie had fought for. Not power, not status, but this: family, friendship, belonging. After dinner, Marcus and Cassie escaped to the highest tower, the same place he'd brought her all those years ago when she was terrified and uncertain. Do you remember the first time we came here? Marcus asked. Of course, Cassie said. You told me I didn't need to be perfect. I just needed to care. And you proved me right every single day since. They stood in comfortable silence for a moment. What do you think happens next? Cassie asked. For the kingdom? For our children? I don't know, Marcus admitted. But I know they're ready. We've prepared them. They'll make their own choices, their own mistakes. They'll build on what we started. Do you think they'll be happy? Cassie asked. If they're half as happy as I am, Marcus said, pulling her close, they'll be blessed beyond measure. Cassie rested her head on his chest, listening to his heartbeat, feeling his warmth through their bond. Below them, the kingdoms sprawled out under the silver moon, lights in every window, lives being lived, families loving each other. People who believed in tomorrow because their rulers had shown them it was possible. The prophecy had spoken of a Luna who would bring a king to his knees. But the real prophecy, the one that mattered, was simpler. That love could change the world. That compassion could transform kingdoms. That the smallest, most forgotten wolf could rise and give hope to thousands. Cassie had been that wolf, and now her children would carry that legacy forward. Thank you, Cassie whispered to the moon, to fate, to whatever force had brought her to this place. For what? Marcus asked. For everything, Cassie said. For you, for our children, for this life, for the chance to matter. You always mattered, Marcus said softly, even when you didn't know it. You always mattered. They stood together under the silver moon, two souls joined as one. A king and his Luna, forever bound by fate and by choice. And in the city below, someone began to sing. A new song, one that would be passed down through generations. The silver Luna came from nowhere with nothing but her heart. She changed a kingdom with compassion, and love became her art. She taught us that our worth's not measured by bloodline or by gold, but by the kindness that we carry and the courage that we hold. So raise your voice for Luna Cassandra, the queen who made us whole, who proved that greatest power lives within a caring soul. The song spread through the city, voices joining in harmony. Marcus and Cassie listened, both with tears in their eyes. That's your legacy, Marcus said. Not the laws you passed or the programs you created, but the hearts you changed, the hope you gave. Our legacy, Cassie corrected. We did this together. Together, Marcus agreed. They kissed under the silver moon, the same moon that had witnessed their first meeting, their ceremony, their challenges, their triumphs, and the kingdoms celebrated below. Not just a king and his Luna, but a love story that had changed everything. And so, the Lycan King who feared no enemy, found his greatest strength in the heart of a forgotten Omega. For sometimes destiny does not wear a crown. Sometimes it arrives barefoot, trembling and unnoticed, until a king kneels before it. This is the tale of Cassandra Moonwhisper, the Silver Luna, who proved that the greatest power in any kingdom is not the strength to conquer, but the courage to care. May her story remind us all that we are never defined by where we start, but by what we choose to become. And that love, was above all else, can change the world. Music fades to silence. The end. Thank you for listening to the Lycan King's Chosen Luna. If you enjoyed this story, please like, subscribe, and share. More dark fantasy romance audiobooks coming soon.